I am not a professional poker player, but one thing that I am pretty good at is beating 1-3 and low stakes poker games. So today I was stuck in Orange City, Florida for one more day after busting my tournament last episode, and I decided, what the heck? I'm gonna go back to my roots where I built my entire bankroll low stakes poker. We're gonna be playing 1-2 today. I'm gonna show you every single hand and tell you what I would do if I was just starting out and how to beat these low stakes games. Because if I could do it for 10 to 15 big blinds an hour like I was doing, I promise you, you can do it as well. All right, we are here at Orange City Poker. Put our $300 on the table. In our first hand, we look at Queen 6 offsuit. That is a pretty bad hand, so I'm going to fold. In this next hand, I actually have Ace 3 or Ace 5, I believe, but there's a weird situation going on where someone makes a mistake. I never act, and we somehow see a flop. I really don't know what happened here. I think it was something with the button straddle, but I guess what I would say about this is don't yell at your dealers. Mistakes happen, and sometimes it's best to just let it go. I probably would have just checked with my Ace 3 offsuit, but who knows? Anyway, we see a flop that does not help us at all, and somebody bets, and I decide to fold. In this next hand, I have the beautiful King Deuce offsuit, and when somebody raises middle position, I'm going to fold from the small blind. Our first hand of note comes when I look down at pocket nines on the button. There is an open from the Casino King who is following us around at this point to $7. The player on his left calls, and I'm going to be 3-betting this one. The Casino King is opening lots of hands, so we want to play in position against him with pretty good hands. So I make it $30 to go. Everybody else folds. The Casino King puts in the call, and we are going to a flop here. And the flop is not very good. It comes King 7-6 with a flush draw. And when he checks over to me, Casino King is pretty inelastic to price, so I'm not going to start sizing down or anything like that. I just bet out for $25, and he folds. So taking down the first hand of the night always feels good. In this next hand, we have a similar situation. I look down at the beautiful Jack King offsuit. The Casino King is going to open, a player calls, and I'm going to 3-bet yet again. I think this is a very profitable spot, especially with 2 Broadway cards against the whale. We want to play hands against the whale. I love you, Casino King. I 3-bet to $30, but this time things are different. It folds the Casino King, and he now 4-bets to $100. He has about $250 behind, so seems a bit of a tough spot to put in the call, and I also really don't love jamming it. So I just decide to fold in position here against the Casino King. I think there's some better spots, and he shows us a 5. So immediately I get punished. We then look down at 8-9 offsuit, which I fold, and then we look at 4-5 offsuit, which I also fold, and then we look down at Ace 6 of hearts. Now, this is a bit loose of an open from early position, but I'm going to be opening a lot of my suited aces in a game that I think I'm going to play better post-flop than most players. So I do open it, and we get 3 callers, going to a flop, which comes pretty good for us. It comes King, Queen, 5 with 2 hearts. On a board like this, I think going for a check raise out of position to multiple players is the best way to go. I check, and the player on my left bets $10. The Casino King folds, and then the small blind puts in the call. I'm going to go with my plan. I make it $40. Nice little check raise here with the nut flush draw. The original raiser folds, but now the small blind puts in the call. Looking for any help for our hand here, and it does not come. It comes another 5, so pairs the board. When he checks it over to me, I don't think this is the type of player that's going to start folding kings or queens or any pairs, really. They're a little bit sticky at the low stakes if you guys haven't figured that out, so I'm going to take a free river card here. I check this one back, and we don't get there. It's a brick. It doesn't really change anything, but when he checks it to me, I decide I'm just going to check it back. I announce that I have ace high, and he also has ace high. We have the same exact hand, but he has clubs. I don't really know how he called the flop, but whatever. We're going to take a bit of profit. I would love to have won that one on the flop, but yeah, going to chop this one up with the ace high. Nice hand, sir. In this next hand, we look down at the beautiful pocket 7s. There's multiple limps to me, and to be honest, I thought we were playing 1-3, which I would make it about 10x from the small blind when the entire table limps. But we're actually playing 1-2. I make it 30, so this is a bit big. I would rather see myself make it 20 because obviously we don't want the entire table to call, and people limp with the intention to limp call. So when you raise off of limps, you should make it larger, just for the record. Unfortunately for us, the player on our left, who hasn't really been active since we've sat down at this table, now goes all in for his $130 stack. If you're in this situation, you should definitely just fold. These players are not jamming all of their pocket pairs, so for the most part, you're just either going to be flipping with 2 big Broadway cards, or they're just going to have you basically dead. But I already put $30 in. It's only $100 more for me to call 50 big blinds. I'm going to give the guy action. Seems like a nice dude, so I put in the call, and he just has pocket 10s. It would have been nice to see that we were flipping, but whatever. We're going to lose this one. The board does not come out in any way, shape, or form that helps us, and we are down $130 early. In this next hand, I look down at Queen 9 offsuit in the cutoff. Even in late position, this hand is not good enough to get involved with, so we fold. In this hand, there is a $5 straddle on the button, and there are multiple limps, and we have ace 6 suited. It's a hand that can easily make the nuts, and there's only one player in between us and the straddler. The straddler is not the squeezing type. He is not reopening the pot when he has a chance to close the action, so I actually think this is a really fine spot to put in the limp. I am not a candidate for limping. I do not think you should be doing a ton of limping, but there are scenarios where you can get away with it, and I think this is one of them. We put in the $5 call, and the board comes extremely well for us. We're like 6 ways. The board comes ace, queen, 6 with a flush draw, and all of a sudden I have 2 pair in a limped pot, and my buddy the Casino King is in it. It checks to me, and I think I am just going to bet the strength of my hand very simply. I bet out for $20. We unblock all of the straight draws, all of the flush draws, and if somebody has a queen, they're probably going to call as well. So I think going bigger is fine, and only the Casino King puts in the call. The turn is an offsuit king, so it's a pretty good card for us. Our opponent can never really have a hand like ace king. We still have 2 pair, and it's against an opponent that is not going to be folding against us very often. So when he checks it over to me, I decide to bet out for $30. He puts in the call, and we see a really, really bad river. It's another king, making us counterfeit. We now chop with hands like ace 9 or ace 8, hands that we were currently dominating. And when he checks it to me, I think we have run out of value. So I just check back, and we're going to win. But obviously, it's a bit of an action-killing card. Our friend, the Casino King, just had a queen, and we're going to scoop in this nice-sized pot. Let's go. When I look down at 6-3 offsuit, I'm going to fold that one. And the same thing with 8-4 offsuit. These are really bad hands, and you should never be getting involved with them. Same thing with Queen 3 offsuit. Even in the big blind, when somebody raises, don't defend, just fold. In this next playable hand, our good friend, the Casino King, now raises it up to $8, and there is a call out of the small blind here. I'd like to see myself go a bit bigger with our squeeze, probably to like $40, $45, but I make it $35. There is a cold caller from one of the limpers, and the Casino King now jams his entire stack in the middle. The player to his left folds, and it's back on me. With the dead money involved and the fact that the Casino King is an absolute maniac, we're absolutely never folding 2 Broadway cards. It's good to give somebody like him action anyway, but I think we are ahead plenty of the time. I reship my stack to make sure that that cold caller from the limp please folds, and he does. He said he had 10-8 of hearts. It is just kind of how I expected. It's King Jack offsuit, and the Casino King shows us Queen 6 suited. So this does not apply to most of your games, so please don't go calling random 1-2 players with King Jack high. You will lose, but this is a very specific opponent and one of my best friends, so we're gonna get in there. And this is not the last time. There's one more hand, but I apologize. This is not true 1-2 gameplay. This will not happen at your table. But yeah, just make sure you're folding if somebody ever does this. And as you can see from on the screen, we are going to hold and stack our buddy, the Casino King. Come on, we're rolling. In this next hand, I look at the beautiful 6-7 of hearts. The cutoff is going to raise to $11, $12. I don't know, $12. They have some weird colored chips here. And look, I like 3-betting just as much as the next guy. I'm very aggressive in these games, but on the button, I think it's completely fine to put in calls every once in a while, especially with a hand that doesn't perform super great against the opening ranges of most 1-2 and low stakes players. The reason I say that, a lot of these players have a limping range, right? And the player on my right does. So when they limp, they have lots of bad hands, and when they raise, they have lots of good hands. We're just going to end up 3-betting their top of range and playing against hands that we really don't want to go see flops against and bloated pots with. So I think putting in the call, long excuse for putting in the call on the button here, but I think it's completely fine. Anyway, we go 5 ways. We see a flop. The flop does not come very well. It's like queen, jack, deuce with 1 heart. And when our opponent, the original raiser, puts out a C-bet, we are just going to fold our hand and move on. In this next hand, I have ace deuce offsuit, and there was a raise from early position. We're just gonna fold. Then we look down at jack nine offsuit, not really playing that from anywhere. Pocket twos, especially not very good from early position. Just don't be raising your small pairs. It puts you in a lot of difficult spots. Then we look down at 7-5 offsuit, not a very good hand. In this next hand, I have king jack offsuit. My good friend, the Casino King, limps in middle position. I bump it up from the small blind to $15. The big blind calls, and so does the Casino King. The board comes pretty good for us. It comes jack, 4, deuce, rainbow. Out of position in a single raise pot, I am just going to be checking my range. So I check, the big blind checks, and the Casino King also checks, feeling like we essentially have the nuts here with our jack good kicker until the turn is an ace. Both these players can easily have an ace, and we're kind of in no man's land. So I just decide to check again. The big blind now bets out for $20. The Casino King puts in the call, and obviously we only really have one decision point here. I also stick in the call. Going to a river here, it is another deuce. I have nothing else to do besides check. That's what I do. The big blind checks, and Casino King now checks as well. I think we always have the winner. I announce I have a jack, and both players muck, and we're winning yet again. Another hand. Let's go, baby. We are once again on the button, and we look down at the very playable ace 3 of hearts. An older gentleman to the left of the Casino King now raises to $15, and I don't ever plan on 3-betting this individual. I think since they have a very, very prominent limping range, I think they always just have pretty good hands here, but I'm still going to stick in the call with my suited ace. So does the Casino King, going 3 ways to a flop, and it doesn't come very well. It comes jack 7-5 with 1 heart. So we have a backdoor flush draw, and we have some backdoor straights, but when the original raiser now bets out for $20, feels like a spot where we could float in position and maybe do some bluffing on future streets, but in the moment I decide it's just not very worth it, and I fold. Here we have the very marginal jack 10 offsuit. I raise it up to $15. It gets to the Casino King, who now makes it $55 to go. And we have been punished for our loose open, and I'm just gonna fold this one. Fun fact, he actually windmills 8 deuce offsuit at me. If I could give you any advice, it's don't get tilted when your opponents bluff you or play recklessly back against you. You'll catch them eventually. And that's a great point right here in this next hand. I have king 10 offsuit, and you might be asking yourself, well, how is this gonna turn into a big pot? Well, you're gonna find out. There is a limp under the gun, and I'm going to raise up my 2 Broadway cards to $15. And once again, the Casino King is going to 3-bet, but this time he goes bigger. He makes it $75. I think there's definitely some considerations to be had here if he's going bigger now when he went smaller with 8 deuce offsuit. But to be honest, I didn't really think about it in the moment. And yeah, I've had enough of the Casino King's shenanigans. I think we can just jam and get him to fold a lot of hands, or we could be ahead sometimes when he does call. So I ship it all in, and we get snapped off. Snapped. But to be honest, he didn't have that much behind. He only has like $175 behind. So it's going to be a small one, but he has ace king offsuit. And yeah, this is a pretty good example of how not to push back against the action players at your table. But you know what? Yeah, in no way is this good, but I am just battling against one of the action players. And I guess one thing I will say, it's never bad to give the action players a bit of action back, because then they're not going to just treat you like the nit that you are, right? Sometimes it's good to get in there and mix things up with players who are really good for the game, which in this case is one of my best friends. Shout out to you, Matt. I love you. But yeah, we're not going to win this one. Ace king versus king 10. We actually flop an open ender, but we don't get there. So shipping $175 over to the 7 seat, and we are going to move on. Here we have raised queen 8 of spades, also a bit of a loose open, and we end up getting 3-bet after there's a bunch of callers, and I am just going to fold to live another day. Next hand, we have 3-7 offsuit. In no way, shape, or form am I ever playing this hand. We're going to fold. And the same goes for 10 deuce offsuit, RIP Doyle, but this hand's going into the muck. Ace 8 offsuit is not a very good hand, but when I have straddled the button, there's a few raises, and I only have to put in $10 more to defend my straddle. I'm going to do that. It's kind of like defending the big blind, but the flop does not help us at all, and we are just going to fold to a C-bet. At this point, we are finally going to escape our friend and go to a table that is much more peaceful and true to the low-stakes poker experience. I set up my camera, and we are immediately filming our hands. 10-6 suited is our first hand at the table, and that's not going to do it. We fold. The same is going to be true for Jack 7 offsuit from the small blind, but then I look down at the beautiful Queen 10 suited. There's an early position raise, and I'm going to put in the 3-bet to $45. The player on my left is now going to put in the cold call from the small blind. If you guys are in a situation like this, I would not recommend doing this. You really want to be 4-betting or folding. Really no hands you should be putting in the call with, especially against an active player like me. And this is going to also incentivize the original raiser to put in the call as well. So going 3 ways to a flop with $140 in the middle. Big pot for a 1-2 game. Let's see what we got here. That's a good flop. It comes king, queen, queen, rainbow. We flop trips. Being in position here is so powerful. We basically get to dictate how this hand plays out. When they both check to me, I think this is obviously a very slam dunk spot to start betting, but it's just a question of how large do we want to go. We don't want to scare away somebody if they have a hand like ace king or king jack or king 10, basically any king. Also, I think they have a lot of underpairs and maybe some straight draws, so I don't think going very big makes a lot of sense. Even 3 ways on a kind of scary board like this, we could still be behind a hand like queen jack and ace queen, and that is also very important to remember. So I bet out for $30, and I'm absolutely delighted to see the player on my left put in the call. But now, which I am not super delighted to see, the original raiser now makes it $100. We have to be asking ourselves what this range looks like. And for the most part, anytime you get check raised in a low stakes poker game, it's not a bluff. This is just a generality. There are some players that will find bluffs, but for the most part, this is not a bluff. So, do we beat any of his value? Well, if he has a hand like ace king, yes, obviously we beat his value. But all the other value that he has, not so much. We don't beat king queen, we don't beat queen jack, and we don't beat ace queen. If he somehow has a slow played aces, I don't think this would make any sense, so kind of discounting that. We're just basically praying that he has ace king. I put in the call, and the player on our left now folds. It's probably good that he folded. He probably just has a hand with some equity like jack 10 or a gutter or whatever, and we would prefer them to just fold, to be completely honest. Now, when the turn is a jack, it limits the amount of queen jacks he can have, or pocket jacks if they somehow played this way, and I'm delighted to see our opponent now check it over to us. Feeling a lot like he has a king, maybe like a king 10, king jack, or even ace king. And I'm going to ship my entire stack in the middle. He doesn't think for more than 2 seconds before putting in the call. I think we're always good here, but a small portion of me thinks there's a chance that he has a hand like ace queen, but I show my cards. He says, yeah, a queen, that's good. And then shows us ace king. So really happy with how this hand played out. And if you guys are in this situation, I would say it's pretty important to 4-bet or get all in with ace king for this exact reason. You have fold equity with hands like ace king, and out of position, you really don't want to let a hand like queen 10 suited end up stacking you on a board like this. But that's pretty results oriented. All in all, I'm very happy to be scooping in this massive $650 pot at a 1-2 game. Let's go, baby. Still stacking our chips from the last hand. I look down at the king 4 offsuit and I decide to fold. Look at these chips, man. Oh, so beautiful. There is no better feeling than playing in a 1-2 or 1-3 game and just stacking heaps of chips. It's the best feeling ever, bro. I love playing like 500 big blinds deep with a bunch of players that are really passive. All right, moving on to the next hand, we have the beautiful ace queen offsuit. There is a straddle on the button, a couple limps, and I'm going to raise it up to $25. And we get a couple players to put in the call. And the flop comes very good for our hand. It comes ace, jack, 8 with a flush draw. We have top pair, and there's tons of draws to get called by. When it checks over to me, I'm going to bet a bit bigger on a board with this many draws. I bet $50 into a pot of $75, and unfortunately, the whole table folds. Oh well, we're going to take down this single raise pot, but feels good to be rolling in the 1-2 streets over here at Orange City Cards and Racing. Jack 5 offsuit is a bad hand, and you should never play it. And the same goes for Jack Deuce offsuit. You should also never play that hand. So fold, fold. This next hand, we have ace 4 offsuit, and there is a raise to $6. A bunch of players put in the call, and in the big blind, you might be thinking, you should stick in the call here, but I don't really know. I don't want to play out of position with a hand that's could be really dominated and is very marginal. Also, I don't really feel like 3-betting this hand, so I think out of position to many players here, it's probably just best to fold with our really bad ace and just live to fight another day. In this next hand, I have Jack 3 offsuit, and for the first time in this vlog, we have seen a 3-bet. A 3-bet from somebody at the table. And if you're ever playing low stakes poker, anytime somebody is 3-betting or 4-betting you in a game that is inherently quite passive, the red flags and the alarms should be going off in your head. People do not 3-bet enough, and they absolutely do not 4-bet enough. So you should be very cautious when defending to 3-bets and 4-bets. Obviously, I'm folding Jack 3 no matter what in this situation, but it's just a note. In this hand, you can see that I have the beautiful King 10 of clubs, and when it folds to me, there's a couple limps and a button straddle. I'm gonna make it $20 to go. We get 2 callers, and then the under the gun or early position limper now goes all in for $140. We won't be calling with King 10 this time, guys. Don't worry. I fold, but yeah, be aware of the limp re-raises. Typically not a bluff, but I don't think I had to tell you that. In this next hand, I have pocket 4s. There's a bunch of limps to me in the big blind, and pocket 4s is not a hand that I would be playing from under the gun or under the gun +1 or even like some of the middle position hands. So I'm definitely not going to be squeezing here out of the big blind to a bunch of limps. We're just going to check our option, and the board does not give us a 4. So typically in a lot of these spots, we either hit a set or we don't, and that's going to determine how far we make it in this hand. Somebody bets, and I'm going to be folding. We look down at ace-6 offsuit on the button here. It folds to me, and I'm going to raise it up to $10. I'm going to be playing a lot of hands from the button. I would love to be in position against the blinds who are probably calling way too wide and don't play nearly aggressive enough that we always get to realize our equity on the button. So I'm going to raise to $10, and both the small blind and the big blind put in the call. The flop comes king, queen, 7 with 2 hearts, and while this is a really good board for us, we obviously don't connect, but we do have a heart, so I think in spots like this, I'm just going to kind of barrel this one off, and if the front door flush comes in, I'm going to bluff, and even if it doesn't, I'm just going to say, hey, I have a set of kings, please fold. They check to me, I bet, the player on my left calls, and the turn brings in the front door flush. Obviously, we don't have a flush, but we're going to pretend like we do. It's not great to run complicated and intricate bluffs against low-stakes players, in my opinion, but when the bluffs are very obvious, I think you should still obviously go for it. And I'm going to continue barreling here. I bet yet again on this turn, and I am thrilled to see our opponent fold. We are taking this one down with a little bit of bluff. Shortly after, I look at the queen 6 offsuit, and I will not be playing this hand, so I fold. But then we look down at the absolutely stunning ace-jack suited, and when it folds to me, we will be playing this hand. It's a straddled pot like a lot of the hands at this table have been, which I'm thrilled about. I open to $20, and I get a couple callers. Going to a flop here, and the flop is not much help to me. It comes 3, 4, deuce. Single raise pot here, out of position. I'm just going to start checking. I have a gutter, which is really nice, and I have a backdoor flush draw. But other than that, this is not a very good board for me. And I'm pleased. I'm very pleased to see it check all the way around. And the turn is a pretty good one. It's a jack. So all of a sudden we have top pair, and I am going to not check this time. I'm going to bet. I am not going to be checking this time. I bet out for $55, and nobody wants that smoke. And we are bringing in yet another small pot, which always feels nice. In this next hand, I have the beautiful king-queen offsuit, and I'm going to raise this one up to $15. Only the button puts in the call, and we're going heads up to a flop that comes not very good for us. It comes 9, 7, 6 rainbow. When I check it over to him, he now bets out for $30, which is really big. And for some reason, I feel like this is very bluffy. I don't think we should ever be putting in the call. We have king high, right? Like our hand isn't ever good. But I don't know, a part of me wanted to raise, but I landed on call for some reason. Don't do this, just fold. It's a horrible board for you, and you basically could just be dead. I stick in the call, the turn does not help us. I check, he bets again, and we are going to fold. A misplayed hand for sure on this one, but we're moving on. Here you can see we have ace, queen of diamonds. The straddle is not on. I raise this one up to $10, and we get a couple calls. The flop comes good. It comes queen high, and when they check it to me, I bet out for 20 bucks, and again, nobody wants any of that action. Everybody folds, and we are again scooping in a single raised pot. Moving on to the next one. Ace-6 offsuit against a bunch of limps, not good enough to raise, and I'm not going to be limping this hand, so I fold. And in the very next hand, we look at the same exact hand, but the suited variety. Ace-6 of diamonds, there's a straddle to $5, 1 limp, and I'm going to make it $20 to go. Everybody folds, and the limper puts in the call. So going to a flop, heads up, in position, nice spot to be with a suited ace, and the flop comes pretty good. We have the nut flush draw. However, the board is 7, 8, 3, and on 8 high boards, even with our nut flush draws, I'm just not going to be doing a ton of betting, even in position. So I check this one back, and the turn is an offsuit ace. So now we have top pair and the nut flush draw. We get checked to. I am going to be putting in a bet this time, though. We won't be checking with top pair and the nut flush draw. So I bet out for $15. She just calls, and the river's a diamond. So we have the nut flush, and she checks it over to me. The way that she has been snap calling and playing this hand so quickly, I feel like she just is always going to call. So I was like, F it. I'm just going to bet 3 green chips and see what happens. I bet $75, which is about the size of the pot, maybe a little bit more. And she just snaps me off. Snap calls. And I show my cards, and we are good. Let's go. The games are good here in Orange City, Florida. I will tell you that. If you're in the Florida area, you definitely got to come check these games out, bro. I'm dead serious. Here we have 7-9 offsuit. We check our option in the big blind, and the board does not help us at all. I'm not going to be bluffing a lot in these multi-way limped pots, so once someone bets, I just fold. Then we have the pleasure of looking down at 10-3 of diamonds, not playing that hand. Same thing goes for 8-deuce offsuit, as well as 6-deuce offsuit and 8-5 suited. All of these hands are just plain ass. Been looking at a lot of ace-6 suited in this vlog, but this is a different hand, obviously. What's going on here, the straddle is on the button, so the blinds act first. So we are essentially playing in a super under the gun position. And while I'm happy to play all my suited aces, from this spot where we're gonna be out of position to literally everybody, and we have eight unknown hands to deal with, it's just best to fold. We should play very tight in these button straddled situations where you're starting first from the blinds. So a hand like ace-6 suited that has a horrible reverse implied odds unless you make a flush, let's just get rid of it. 9-10 offsuit from the small blind is a bit better, has some okay playability, but I'd prefer it be suited. We're just going to let this one go. And now we have arrived at the hand of the vlog. Hand of the vlog! I know, it's a big statement, but we have King 8 of hearts, and there's an open mini callers, and we are on the button with a fairly marginal suited king. I think we can go either way with a hand like King 8 of hearts. It's surely not bad to fold, even on the button, but I'm pretty confident in myself, and it's a pretty nice suited hand. I love my suited kings, so I stick in the call here on the button. Probably the only place we can get away with it. If it's cut off or hijack or something, or even small blind, obviously just fold. But on the button, I'm gonna stick in the call, and I'm glad I did. The board comes King, Jack, 8. We're multi-way, but flopping 2-pair is never a bad thing. It's a rainbow board, and I'm never happy to see the most out of position player now bet out for $30. There's a lot of people left to act, and people tend to not bet out when there's many players in the hand with weak holdings, right? So I think if you had a hand like Queen 10, or, you know, maybe Queen Jack or Jack 10, it's not very likely that he's just starting to bet now. I think they would do a lot of checking. So when multiple players call to me, I don't know, man, this hand actually puzzles me. With the multi-way function of this hand, I just think raising is going to be, we're gonna have to raise huge, right? We'll have to make it like, what, 120, 130, and then set up for a river, like a turn. And then what, set up for a turn jam? I don't know. I decided I was just gonna call and see how this hand develops. I think there's a lot of scary turn cards, and we don't always have to have the best hand. I don't know. You guys can roast me in the comments about this one. I really don't know. I'm not being results oriented. You're gonna see how this hand plays out, but it's a really interesting one. Anyway, I put in the call, and the turn is not a very good one. It's a 9. So the board is now King, Jack, 9, 8. We have top and bottom pair, and we lose to hands like King, Jack, King 9, Queen 10 gets there. And now the player who bet on the flop continues for $100. There's a fold, and then the lady that's sitting 2 to my right goes all in for less. It's like 85. So there's a small side pot, but for the most part, she calls. And now it's on me. And again, I'm sitting there wondering, this feels weird. How can you have a good hand on the flop and on the turn and bet into 4 people twice, or bet into 3 people twice? What does that range look like? Does he just have Queen 10? Could he have a hand like King Jack that he still feels like is good, which he's right, probably is good? I kind of want to fold now, right? But that seems so nitty, and I don't want to be a nit. I don't know. I stick in the call, $100. This pot is massive, and the river is really bad. It's really bad. It's another Jack. So the board is King, Jack, Jack, 9, 8. And our opponent now bets $250. This story is not adding up to me. It feels like it's just King, Jack. I guess Queen 10 would still feel pretty safe with this run out. Obviously I can't call. We've been counterfeit. We just have a king with an 8 kicker. We're basically playing the board. I mean, I don't know. This is just a really weird hand. Maybe I should have just raised the flop, but I don't know. Obviously I fold. I'm a bit pissed off and tilted. Okay, I fold, and our opponent shows ace king, and the lady had pocket 10s. What? Dude, how do you have ace king? It's a single raise pot. And why are you going bet, bet, bet? How are you not worried? I don't know, man. Sometimes the hands that you see at low stakes poker will infuriate you. They won't make a whole lot of sense, but it's just part of the learning curve, right? You got to be able to play against it. And if I knew he would be doing this with a hand like ace king, I don't know how he can have ace king, but obviously I would have started raising. Let's move on to the next hand. Back to folding, we have the 5-3 offsuit. That's no good. Jack 10 offsuit's a little bit better, but against a raise, we're just going to fold. Jack 5 suited, also going to hit the muck. And the 6-8 suited, you know what? First raise in, I actually don't mind this hand. I raise it up to $10. I love myself a little suited one gapper. We get a bunch of callers, and by a bunch of callers, I mean literally the entire table. But we're actually not going to get that far. Somebody just limp goes all in for like 120 bucks, and obviously I'm not calling with 6-8 of spades, so we fold. In this next hand, I have ace deuce of hearts, and I'm going to raise it up to $10. We get a couple callers, and the board does not come very good for us. It comes queen 10 5. And there's one check, and then the big blind now decides to just donk into everybody for $10. And our hand is obviously not very good, so we're just going to fold. As you can see here, I have Jack 3 offsuit, and I'm going to check my option after a bunch of limps. No need to do anything else than that. The flop comes okay. It comes 10-8-3, so we have bottom pair. And when someone bets, I put in the call with my bottom pair, hoping to maybe drill a 2 pair or a 3 on this turn. Who knows, maybe a 3 could be good against a bunch of draws, but it's unlikely, and the turn does not help us. It's like a 7 or a 6, and that same player bets again, and we are now going to fold our hand. In this next hand, I have the beautiful king queen of hearts. There's a bunch of limps, and I make it $15 from the small blind, and I get 2 callers. The board is going to come okay. It comes jack 9-6 with a flush draw, so we have a gutter and 2 overs, and when I check it, one of our opponents bets out for $15. The other one folds, and it's on me. We have a gut shot and 2 overs. I think check raise is fine, and call is also not horrible, so I just stick in the call, and the turn doesn't help us. It's a deuce of some aspect. I check, and he checks behind. The river's a 4, and I have king high, so I have no showdown value, and he probably has a single pair holding, so I'm going to bet out for close to the pot, $80, and I am absolutely delighted to see him snap fold. Feels good to scoop in what is basically the last hand of the night. Let's go. And that is a full hand breakdown of my first 1-2 session in a very long time. We were in the game for about $450, and we cashed out for $625 in about 3 hours. That is good for, what is that? Like, I don't know, $55 an hour, $57 an hour at 1-2, which is good for about 25 big blinds an hour. I'll take that. I'll take that, baby. I'm so back. You know what? Maybe I should just stop playing all of these high stakes games and just stick to what I'm good at, which is 1-2 and 1-3. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I love you guys. And as always, I will see you next time. Peace.